Good day to you all. Hello. I am going to be talking today about IBS and anxiety. I've not talked about IBS and anxiety for a while. I thought today I'd talk about my IBS essentials, some things I always have with me at all times, and just some things that I do that really helps with my IBS and anxiety. IBS is a illness or syndrome of its own, and anxiety is as well, but for me, anxiety and IBS are completely intertwined, and I rarely feel one without the other. Whenever I'm going through a bad IBS time, it is most of the time because I'm stressed and I'm very anxious. Any time that, for example, I'm somebody that really struggles, I've got severe anxiety issues, and when my parents are both out of town, I really struggle with that, and I tend to have really bad IBS times, and pain and horrible things like that happen around those times. My cat's chasing her tail on the floor, so if you can hear somebody being a raj, then that's what that is. It's your own tail! I do kind of believe that everybody that experiences IBS has some form of emotional stuff attached to it. I believe that we totally feel things in our stomachs when we're excited, happy, anxious, nervous. We get bad news, we get good news. We usually feel it in our stomachs, and I believe that when you have IBS, a lot of the time it can be, I'm not saying that it's all in your head or it's completely an emotional disorder, but I do believe that a lot of the time with IBS, it comes from anxiety and emotions, and that's what I think. I also know that, illnesses that are kind of like Crohn's and all of these things, that's a physical thing with emotional things as well. But IBS specifically, I do believe that there's a lot of things linked with the brain, and this is also known as the second brain. If you didn't know, in your gut, it's meant to be the second brain and where you process things. So that's what I believe. So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I always have on me and some of the things that I do to help with my IBS and anxiety. I'm going to start with things that aren't medication, because there might be some of you that are just not really wanting to go down the route of medication or taking drugs. I am not that way inclined. I am partial to the odd, anything that can kind of help, and I know that some people believe that you shouldn't be taking medication, some people believe that you should only be taking medication. I am totally in the middle. I think do whatever makes you feel better, but I'm going to first talk about the non-medication things. Starting with heat pads and cool pads. Honestly, what did I do before heat pads existed, or before I knew about heat pads? Obviously there are hot water bottles and like those lovely bean bag things that you put in the microwave, which are amazing, and I use them when I'm at home and not feeling very well. But when I'm out and about, or I have to do something, or I'm out and about and I suddenly get nausea or stomach pain, I always have a heat pad with me, and they are the best things that have ever existed. When I went to my boyfriend's brother's wedding, I was feeling so unwell, and it was probably anxiety and all of those kinds of things, but I just really wasn't feeling good, and I had 3 heat pads attached to my stomach. I was on Buscopan, I was on Valium, I was on everything under the sun, but I had 3 heat pads attached to my stomach in different areas. I had one right here, one here, one here, and I sometimes can kind of rotate them. With heat pads, they say to just put them on the outside of your clothes. Obviously I was wearing a big fancy dress, I didn't really want to have what looks like a sanitary pad attached to me, so I put them onto my clothes and it was totally fine. Obviously they recommend that you don't do that, but if you're starting to feel like it's burning you, then take it off, or if you're like allergic to plasters and stuff like that, then maybe don't. But I had all 3 on all day, and it kept me going until like 9 o'clock. So heat pads are the best things ever. I always have them with me, and yes, they're not great for the environment, but I think if you're wanting to function and that kind of thing makes you able to function, then do it, and maybe try and be more eco-conscious in other ways, behind the scenes in different ways. Also cool pads. I have a family member that has diverculitis, and he recently had to get a colonoscopy and all those kinds of things, and has found that cool pads are 100% better for him when trying to get rid of stomach pains and all those kinds of things. So ice packs and just the cool pads that you can get really help him more, so maybe getting both of them and just trying them both out. Next we have ginger tea. I don't tend to go for this option very often because I think sometimes when I have IBS and it's really bad, I just feel so freaked out by it and I get so anxious about it and like just feel so unwell and I feel nauseous and I've got a phobia of sick, so just I sometimes don't feel able to move. But when I do feel like the first signs of nausea coming on, or like I feel able to get up and do something, then I will make myself a cup of ginger tea. I prefer ginger and lemon tea just because I feel like it tastes better, but it does the same kind of thing. Ginger is just so great for nausea, and nausea definitely comes along with my IBS symptoms, so I find that it really is so helpful. Moving on to dry foods. Dry and plain foods are my best pal. I have been known to, when I'm going out and I'm feeling anxious and not feeling good, I've been known to just take a box of crackers out with me and just have them in my bag. I tend to generally stick to plain foods, especially in the morning. If I eat anything too sugary or too flavourful in the morning, then I probably won't feel well for the rest of the day. Even things like with a lot of dairy in them are really not good for your gut, and like if you're somebody that, even if you're not dairy intolerant, so you can still have bits of dairy, I would say steer clear of dairy in the morning. I find it really helpful. I use oat milk in my coffee now. If I'm having cereal, I'll use oat milk. I don't even tend to have cereal in the morning because it just feels not good for me. So I tend to have something dry, like toast with a little bit of butter or whatever, with a little bit whatever you kind of want on it. Jam and all those kinds of things just don't do well for me in the morning. But then when my body's started to digest things, then later in the day, in like the evening and stuff, then I feel like I can eat curries or whatever I want to eat in the evening. Maybe not too spicy, but yeah, I just find that in the morning I tend to prefer plain food and dry food. And I always have dry food with me whenever I'm going somewhere that makes me anxious or whatever, because just having a couple of crackers just seem to really help me. Two things that kind of go together for me are moving and massage. This sounds really airy-fairy, but stay with me. I tend to just kind of feel what's my body want right now, and sometimes just even swaying really helps, or just having a hand on my stomach or having a hand on my chest and just breathing seems to really help. And obviously that is kind of like an anxiety thing, to kind of help with anxiety, but honestly my IBS is completely helped whenever I massage or just like touch my stomach, or just kind of like sometimes just move side to side, or even when I'm standing and talking to people or whatever, I'm just like swaying or like rubbing my stomach or whatever. Sometimes I also take like something that I can massage my tummy without, which is obviously something I don't really do when I'm in a group of friends. Maybe if I'm not feeling good and I feel like massaging my stomach would help, then I'll go to the toilet and like moisturise or whatever. We all know social etiquette most of the time, and obviously massaging yourself in front of other people is not always, you know, welcome. But I do find, like, even just if I'm just standing and I'm kind of like rubbing my stomach like that, it seems to really help. It's almost like a reassuring action to be like, it's alright IBS, it's okay. Sounds crazy, really helps me. And the last one of this section, I will say, do not listen to supposed to. The person I was talking about, my family member who has tuberculosis, had to get a colonoscopy, and they had like a top specialist talking to them about what they need to eat and what they should eat to feel better, and the doctor told him you need to have like as much fibre as you possibly can. And so he did that. He bought like loads of different fibre things and was just eating loads of fibre all the time and felt horrible, felt sick, really bad stomach pains, like every evening was just like lying on the sofa in pain. And I said to him, listen, I've been told also by doctors to have loads of fibre and it does not work for me. When I have too much fibre, I feel horrible. So he stopped having fibre, and as much fibre, obviously still has fibre in his diet, but stopped having it as much and felt great. Like feels so much better now. And I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but maybe I am. There's going to be specialists of all different types of spectrums that say you have to do this, if you're not doing this and you're going to be so ill. Keto diets or low fibre diets, high fibre diets, FODMAP diets. There's millions of different diets, and I think try them out if you want to. But I think I personally feel like going with individual foods seeing how I feel after them is much more helpful for me. So that's what I tend to do. I've had IBS for a long time, so I kind of know where my body's at and whether I'm able to eat certain things. So I know sometimes I can't eat eggs, sometimes I can't eat dairy, sometimes I can. That's just how I feel about that whole thing. Moving on to the drugs. These are all quite self-explanatory drugs. Buscopan, I have Buscopan cramps and they are a revelation. I used to just have regular Buscopan, I didn't really use it that much. But now, at the first sign of like cramping, I will use Buscopan cramps. This sounds like an ad. But it's not an ad, it's just that I went to the pharmacy once and she said, why don't you try Buscopan cramps? And I was like, I sure will. And it really, really helped. You know, if you've got IBS, that familiar twinge in your lower left abdomen and you're like, oh no, this is not good. But I've found that Buscopan cramps are so great and really helpful. Next, if you didn't know, ibuprofen's really not great for some people that have gut problems. So paracetamol, if you're not feeling good, even if it's not a IBS related issue that you're having, if you've got a headache or whatever, paracetamol all the way rather than ibuprofen. I have Valium. I take Valium whenever I am really starting to panic. And IBS, when I'm having a really bad IBS flare up, then I will panic most of the time. It just makes me feel very anxious, and so I do sometimes take Valium that's prescribed by my doctor. Sometimes with doctors it can be a bit of a fight to get them to give you Valium. I'd say just keep trying different doctors. I luckily have a doctor right now that's very lovely, very understanding, and so when I have run out of Valium then she will give me more, and it's very monitored and all the rest of it, because it is a drug that can be addictive, and it's also a drug that if you take it too much, your tolerance will lower to it. So I'd literally never take it unless I know that I really need something to help me out, and then I will, and that's the way I feel about it. I know there's people that have quite strong opinions on Valium, but that's my feelings on it. And the last one I have is anti-nausea tablets. I take Cyclizine. I also have Quell's anti-nausea tablets for travel, which also work really well if I have run out of the prescription Cyclizine from my doctor, because Cyclizine is my number one. Oh my god, this drug has changed my entire life. I think if I didn't have anti-nausea tablets, I would take Valium a lot more than I do now, but it just like gets rid of the need for me to, like, as soon as I take an anti-nausea tablet, I don't feel sick anymore, and it tends to calm my whole stomach down because I'm not panicking anymore. So anti-nausea tablets are my best pal. I actually spoke to my doctor and said, like, listen, I've got a phobia of sick, I have severe anxiety and IBS and all these things, and I know it's weird for me to be on a tablet that you give to pregnant women, but it helps me so much. And I was honest with her, and she was like, cool, well, I'll put in a repeat prescription for you. The guidance is you never take more than 3 in a day. I've never taken more than 3 in a day, and also once I've taken 3, there is definitely no nausea at all anymore for me. And nausea, like I said, is a big IBS thing for me. So they are my IBS essentials. If you had any more things or drugs that you take or things that you use that really help you, or just actions that you do that really help you, let me know. One more thing actually is lying on your left hand side. This was a really long time ago. This girl talked about, that has IBS, talked about how lying on her left hand side makes her feel so much better. And I was like, I don't know why that would work, but it works so well if you're feeling that nausea feeling or you're starting to feel the first signs of pain, rather than lying on your back, lying on your left hand side. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's like just like where your organs are, or like something about acid or things flowing, I don't know, but lying on my left hand side, oh my god, it works so well. It really helps. So that's definitely one to take away as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope that some of these can be helpful, or just knowing that IBS and anxiety is a really difficult thing to go through, and there's definitely so many people, especially women, that go through this. Also the menstrual cycle just like doesn't do very well with all of these things, and I was talking to my partner about this the other day, that, you know, women just don't really feel comfortable, or a lot of women don't really feel too comfortable going to the toilet in public, and I think that's also probably part of everything. Like, if we're not feeling comfortable to go to the toilet and we're holding it in, that's super bad for us, and it's going to make us have things like IBS and stomach problems. And yeah, I just think there's a whole host of different things when it comes to IBS and women as well, so that can be a whole other video. But thanks very much for watching today, and I'll see you soon. Bye!